first dirt track race of the season was race 8 of the 2013 HARC Pro Series season, and Gary Tang in the 54 got the pole with the 23 of Zachary Brown on his outside. Gary Tang would immediately take the lead in turn 1, but then Damir Bejianov in the 13 car would take the lead for himself, coming down through turns 3 and 4. And then Kyle Polanini would get underneath Damir Bejianov and take the lead for himself going into turn 3, and then Mitch McDonald would take it. So currently it's just been a pass every single corner, and now Ron Young's getting to the inside, and he will take the lead. In the next turn, James Bond would get to the inside of Ron Young and take the lead for himself, and then Shrimp Engritz would get to the inside of him and would take the lead in the following corner, as we have 2 and 3 wide racing throughout the entire field, and we've got a crash. First caution of the day was caused when Leigh Walker made contact with Zachary Brown, sending him into the inside wall. Zachary Brown didn't get that much damage from it, luckily, and he would continue on. Meanwhile, a bit further back in the field, Connor Breton would get into Mason Wood, and he would go for a quick spin. He would not get any damage, and both drivers would continue on. Shrimp Engritz would lead the field back to the green flag as Damir Bejianov would make an illegal move on the inside there, and he would get a penalty from the HARC officials to come into the pits for a 10-second penalty. Fortunately, Damir Bejianov would make an extremely bad choice of when to do this, and he would go head-on into the outside wall, entering turn 3 and 4 after being hooked by Robert Moss. Because the crash car of Damir Bejianov posed no threat to the leaders and was not even close to being on the racing line, the HARC officials decided to let the field continue racing. However, shortly after this, Ben Dover would cause a caution as he blew a motor and started spewing oil all over the track. Many drivers were caught behind in his stream, and when Ben Dover tried to get into the pits, James Bond hooked him into the outside wall, spinning out Jacob Young in the process. Jacob Young would make slight contact with the tire wall before continuing. Ben Dover would go out of the race. Shrimp Engritz would lead the field back to the green flag as the lap cards of James Bond, Jacob Young, and Zachary Brown were all on the inside there. They all had damage from their respective incidents, so during the last caution they decided to make a pit stop to repair it. The reason James Bond and Jacob Young seem to be so ahead of Shrimp Engritz on that restart is because Shrimp Engritz didn't really maintain minimum speed. We are riding with Ken Isman, who's in around 7th place. Whoa! Zach Harvick just absolutely cut down across Penn Isman's bumper trying to get into the pit road, and both cars are now destroyed. This would actually not bring out the caution because they were both well off of the track when they crashed. Luke Walker and Nicholas DeFord also came in for pit entry for cutting the course under the last restart. A few laps later, James O'Shea would get to the inside of Shrimp Engritz and would be the first person to pass Shrimp Engritz in quite a long time. Look out for James O'Shea today. He is a fast car. Meanwhile, a bit further back in the pack, we have 3 wide racing as Nicholas DeFord has just hooked Ilya Bondarenko, and they've gone hard into the wall. Ilya Bondarenko actually is upside down. Nicholas DeFord, our points leader, with heavy damage. I don't think we're going to see him returning. Nicholas DeFord and Ilya Bondarenko would both go out of the race from this wreck. James O'Shea would lead the field back to the green flag, but Shrimp Engritz would make an illegal move down on the inside, and Shrimp Engritz would get a penalty from the HARC officials immediately for that incident. Shrimp Engritz would immediately come in to serve his penalty, as we have a crash further back in the field. Robert Moss made an illegal pass on the restart there, and he came in to do his pit stop, but cut across the bumper of Nathan Gibson. This would bring out yet another caution. Gary Tang would lead the field back to the green flag. He is going very slowly, and now he goes, and the lap cars are probably all going to get a penalty for this because They went way too quickly in front of the leaders, and we actually have 4 wide there for a second. And there goes the 2 lead cars who were in front of the field for the pit stops. While it would be James Davis in the 72 car who took the lead, coming out of the final turn there. Oh wow, James Bond almost clipped him there. Now Eric Cesar gets to the inside, and now James Davis is coming in for an unscheduled pit stop. He must have a problem. And now Dixie Normus is getting to the inside of Eric Cesar, and she will take the lead. Coming into turn 1, we have a ferocious 3-wide battle going on for around 9th place, and then Richard Trolinsky hooked Gary Tang, who just went in way too hard, possibly even blew a tire, and they both went hard into the wall. Both would go out from their respective accidents. Dixie Normus would lead the field back to the green flag as we have another very messy restart going on, as now Eric Cesar has gotten to the inside of Dixie Normus and is making an illegal passes. We have about 2 or 3 cars that will have to come into pit road because they made illegal passes. Eric Cesar is making his now. Maybe the HARC officials have decided that the lap cars were in the right there. Meanwhile, after the cars that needed to come in after their illegal passes came in, James O'Shea would be left as the leader. Dixie Normus in second and Mark Nutt in third. James O'Shea would lead for the next 15 laps or so until Dixie Normus got a great run coming through turns 3 and 4 and would make the pass, using the lap down car of Eric Cesar as drafting help. Coming through turns 3 and 4 the same lap though, Ron Young would get a run on Dixie Normus and would take the lead for himself. As you can see the damage on the 64 car as we have yet another caution. Zach Hofschneider would run high coming into turn 1, and both Nathan Gibson and Zach Hofschneider would go hard into the outside wall. For the final time, Ron Young would lead the field back to the green flag with just 41 laps to go. As we have yet another semi-messy restart. Mark Nutt would end up getting a penalty as Ron Young would maintain the lead. Eric Cesar would get to the inside of the leader Ron Young coming into turn 3, and Dixie Normus would use the lap car as a pick to get around Ron Young for the lead. After leading for 15 laps, Dixie Normus would get held up by the lap down car of Robert Moss, and James O'Shea would get around and take the lead. A few laps later, while Connor Breton was trying to get one of his laps back, Mason Wood would sweep around the inside of James O'Shea and would take the lead for himself for the first time this race. Mason Wood would lead for the next few laps before getting stuck in lap traffic, and Dixie Normus would take this opportunity to get to the inside and make the pass on Mason Wood. For the next 10 laps or so, Dixie Normus would use the lap cars to her advantage and would keep the field at bay. It seems though it's just 3 laps to go that Dixie Normus's tires were just worn out from hard driving, and Ron Young would get to the inside and take the lead. However, coming to 2 laps to go, Dixie Normus's car seemed to rebound and she would retake the lead in the middle of a huge bundle of lap traffic. Coming into the final corner, Ron Young would make one last try to get the lead from Dixie Normus, but it would prove unsuccessful as Dixie Normus would cruise to her first ever win. Ron Young would come across the line second, Mitch McDonald third, Mason Wood fourth, and James O'Shea fifth.